This session is going to be on definitely not non-AI and real intelligence in terms of how do we forge communities among ourselves as teacher educators. So a community of practice generally forges itself around a emerging field, but in this talk I'm going to argue it would help for a community to come together with a specific purpose of developing intersectionality studies. So as many of you would already be aware, this is largely for the students' sake. Intersectionality is a term coined by Kimberly Shaw, who is from the feminist legal studies, and she defines it as a prism for seeing the world in different ways and how axes of inequality come together in marginalization. And therefore, in inclusive education, intersectionality becomes a very important aspect. Now, intersectionality studies in India have, of course, been existing, maybe not under the term of intersectionality. Manohar Lohia, for example, a social activist and thinker of the mid-20th century, had linked caste, class, gender, and politics of language, especially Hindi and English, in his work. And we have a range of Dalit feminist researchers. I'm sorry, there's an extra G in Sharmila Rege's name. That's a typo. Then, of course, disability studies also brings in the aspect of intersectionality. So can these be subsumed under the category of intersectionality studies that has emerged from the global north? So that's something that we should be critically questioning. So as with many other concepts, including inclusive education itself, intersectionality is a construct that has traveled from the global north. So Yuval Davis, in his paper Tracing the History of Intersectionality Studies, points out that it was post the UN conference against racism in 2001, where Kimberly Shaw was invited as a keynote speaker, that the term started being used more widely in projects and programs that were funded by external agencies, particularly the UN agencies. So Nivedita Menon, who is a feminist scholar, so she points out that the single axis framework of global north, which was critiqued by Kimberly Shaw, was never the case in India. In India, researchers and activists have always been aware of the fact that there are multiple factors that affects one's identity. So as I told earlier, we may not have used the word intersectionality, but the aspect that there are other social and cultural factors, political and economic too, that do interface with our ways of being and acting in the world has been recognized in the country for quite some time. So some of the examples are the aspect of for the parliament, for example. So there was supposed to be a reservation policy for women members in the parliament. And at that point in time, if you study the arguments that were being made, so it was not just a patriarchy that prevented women from entering parliament in more numbers, but it was also the fact that there was a fear that privileged men would then be replaced by privileged women. So when reservation is made for women as a single category, then there would be the danger of middle class, upper caste women occupying the seats more in number. So we have many such examples. So the question is, when we've been by default invoking the lens of intersectionality, we should be able to build on our local contextual understandings and practices moving forward. So in terms of intersectionality in inclusive education, this is certainly an emerging field. And I have summarized four aspects from a review of literature on intersectionality and inclusive education that I thought is relevant to the argument that I'm making. One is the aspect of interaction of multiple factors that lead to discriminatory processes in schools, where different groups of students are marginalized. The second aspect is the need for a multi-axial analysis of issues. And these issues have to be looked across governance structures, regulatory bodies, resources that are available, capacity building, school level interventions, and of course monitoring and evaluation. Then the third important aspect is the fact that the theoretical frameworks of intersectionality have a lot to offer in terms of inclusive pedagogic ideas and practices. Then the fourth one is the recognition of complex ways in which identities are formed. So it is never unidirectional. There are multiple factors that contribute to the formation of identities. So moving on to the community of practice of teacher educators, this is the core of my argument. To further intersectionality studies in the Indian context, so as you are again well aware, Leib and Wenger were the ones who came up with this idea of community of practice. And Wenger points out three important aspects of a community of practice. One is the community itself. The second is the domain with which the community is engaged in. And third are the practices that become the focus within a particular community. So what I'm trying to pitch before all of you is that a community of special educators, general educators, the middle rung officials and the government systems, and of course the civil society organizations and NGOs that are working with teachers quite extensively can come together as a community. The more the merrier, but I thought it would be good to bring in diverse expertise of people who are working with teachers. Of course, the domain would focus on inclusive education, and the practice can include the spectrum of teacher education, right from the initial teacher education to the newly qualified teachers. That is, again, a group that is largely neglected in our country, and continuous professional development, and of course, research. So I would like to share with you two of my own learnings in terms of setting up communities of practice for teacher educators. So one is the connected learning for STEM, which was a unique global South-South collaboration to support inclusive classroom practices of secondary school teachers in mathematics and science in Bhutan, Nigeria, and Tanzania. Dr. Dorji, who's here, is the Bhutan head of this project, and Professors Sujata and Apurva were involved in providing inputs towards ensuring that the materials that were created were aligned with UDL principles. So one learning from this is that the collaborative development of high quality OERs suited to local context is something that the COP made available. So if you look at CL for STEM in TIS website, you will find these OERs are available there. And then the mutual learning and sharing that emerged from this COP over a period of 3 years, largely during the pandemic. The project started during the pandemic period, so we had to begin virtually. The kind of mutual learning that happened was tremendous. And because it was the global south context without North partner, we were able to understand each other's complexities much more easily. I have a short video to show. I don't know if this has been downloaded. Uh, has the video been downloaded? Is this the one?
The pleasant surprise to me is, how the project was structured. It was structured in such a way that first the teacher educators were trained. We never expected that we would get training from the experts. And then we will be involved in the data collection process, development of resources, and then the collection.
I think there's so many areas to highlight, but the most important thing is their ability to embrace the project and to have a clear understanding of the major components of the project. The teacher educators had clear understanding, and that was reflected in the way they interface and interact with the teachers in the field. So that's one very clear aspect of learning. Two, I think the teacher educators as well as the teachers, the component for community of practice stand out in this project. From the Nigerian perspective, everyone has been using WhatsApp, Telegram group, but nobody thought it can be used for an academic purpose like this, for training and retraining of teachers where people can acquire skills. And so it was quite interesting. The teacher educators were able to stay alert on the platform, initiate prompts, and then respond to teachers' queries.
The project also had been very significant for the teachers. Especially because the opportunity to go use OERs, online modules being created by the teacher educators. Besides getting an opportunity to enhance their content knowledge, I think they specifically learned about how to
see the participation of the teachers, including teachers in the remote areas, where previously they had the ICT infrastructure, but which they did not know could be useful in teaching and learning situation. They followed it through their mobile phones, through their laptops, and the many other resources, ICT resources, which were available. That helped to make a kind of success which maybe we did not expect, but it happened.
This is what.
All right. I think you get a sense of what the community of practice was able to do. So I said this has got nothing to do with AI. Did we use AI in our OERs? Of course we did. But rather than foregrounding the AI, it was the coming together of teacher educators. So about 80 teacher educators from the 3 countries came together along with the team at TIS to prepare these open education resources. The second example of a COP that I want to bring in is closer to home. It's called a teaching and learning community. So this was created during the pandemic, primarily from a request from Mumbai University to support their MEd students with online sessions for their curriculum. And Professor Sybil Thomas, again, who was here for a session earlier, was part of this COP. And so what emerged primarily as a session meant for MEd students organically grew into a community of practice of 380 teacher educators from across the country. So the sense, we have written up a paper on this. So the participants shared that the sense of community and belonging that the COP engendered was something that was quite invaluable, especially for the MEd students. And of course, the repository of resources and databases that the COP made available, and a potential for collaborative research that it provided. So these resources are now available on NCTE's website. So time and effort are definitely needed to set up a COP, and mutual understanding and respect is absolutely essential if a COP has to be sustained and working. So COP specifically created for intersectionality studies. There are plenty of things that can be done. Just to prioritize a few, addressing student teachers multiple social markers of identity, for example, would be an important aspect. Since all of us are part of the society, and the deep biases that are there in the society we carry as well. So unless we have safe spaces where this can be discussed, we are going to continue to perpetuate these biases. So COP can emerge as such a safe space. And of course, forging South Asian intersectionality studies should be the key purpose of the COP. So these are some of the references that I have used in the slide, and thank you very much.